G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza and this is a walk cycle tutorial in animating frame by frame. Now, if you feel like some sort of preface or something, watch the introduction video, but we're going to get straight into it and animate this guy, whom we will call Noodle Man because he looks like a noodle. Now, getting straight into it, frame by frame animation is quite a bit more time consuming than tween-based animation, but it is worth the effort in the long run. So we're just going to give it a go. Now this is our reference. And we're going to start off by sketching how the first frame will look of this guy. Now, before we begin, let's give him a reason. Why is he walking? What is his purpose? Well, this guy is pretty happy. He just got lucky. He got a girl's phone number and she was hot, so he's feeling pretty proud of himself. So he's got a very upright stance because he's excited. So we're going to have him leaning back nice and proud, chest out. And the very first keyframe meaning the anchor to which our animation will take place, is going to be with his left arm forward, like this. His right arm back like this. His right foot forward like this. And his left foot back like that. So that is how we begin. We don't need more than that. In fact, the amount of detail we've already put in the head and torso is kind of unnecessary, but it's a start. Now, I'm going to take this. I'm going to convert it to a movie clip. I'm going to call it Walk Stage 1. Now the reason I'm doing this is so that as we animate it, we can preview it as we render. If I press Control Enter, it brings up the video and this will play the walk cycle. Now, I'm going to go inside the movie clip and we're going to get into it. First things first. We assume how many frames this is going to take place over. Let's check the properties. I'm sitting at 30 frames a second. So I'm going to leave it at that. But because of our time conservation and because of the amount of work involved, I'm not going to draw details of the face or anything, as you can clearly see. And I'm going to do double frames, meaning every second frame. This is kind of standard in 30 frames a second because it is a lot to do. But in moments of a lot of motion and fast movement, it's good to do every frame. But for now, we're going to do 30 frames. No, that's too short. 30 frames a second, so let's say 40. Meaning, for the full length of his walk will be 40 seconds. The end frame should be similar to the first frame, but we're going to leave it the same as the first frame for now, for our reference. Now we go straight into the middle. We delete that. We select here where it says, oh no, not that one, sorry, this one, onion skin. We click that, and that way, as you can see, actually no, you can't see because it was so light. I'm gonna have to make this darker. My bad. I'm just rambling. Okay, now you can see the previous frame. Okay, that's what onion skin does. Now in the middle of this timeline between the 40 frames, I'm going to redraw the character in the exact halfway point of the animation, which is essentially flipped. So this time, his torso will be fairly similar. His head will be fairly similar, if not turned a bit the other way. And this time, this arm is going to be up and proud, and the back arm will be harder to see. The front leg, the right leg, will come forward. Now remember to keep depth in mind that the front side of the camera is going to be closer to the viewer and the back side further away. Okay, so there are our 2 frames. Now, if I render by hitting Control Enter, we can see that's the length. In terms of time, that's the time. Walk, walk, walk. Now I want this to feel very prim and proud. Now, when I do this, I notice that I'm bouncing down before I go up to where those keyframes are. So if this is my reference, is me, and I look like a douche, but that's okay. I'm going to go in this halfway point between these two drawings. So this one here and this one here, I'm going to hit F7, and that deletes that keyframe. And I'm going to drag the onion skin to cover the frame after. So that way I can see both this frame and this frame while not on either of them. Now, this is where I begin to get the motion in. So he's bent down a bit. Now his right foot is forward, meaning that in this halfway point here, his what do you call it? Pelvis is lower. His knee will be bent. His back knee will be more bent. His arm will be about halfway. So about... It's always good to... I know it sounds and looks a bit silly on camera on YouTube or whatever, but it is good to get a motion. It's good to visualize or at least feel within your own motion how the movement feels. I keep repeating myself. Okay. So just with our construct, as with our construct lines in the other videos, we're just doing very sketchy crap. We're just doing the stick figure, and I'm doing the torso and the head just cause, but you don't have to. Okay. So we've done our mid frame. I'm going to drag this right there. So we have our halfway point at frame 20 between 1 and 40, and then a halfway point between those two frames at frame 10. So let's see how that feels. That feels pretty good to me. Now we're going to do the same thing for this side. So I'm going to get rid of that keyframe, delete it, F7. I'm going to get my brush and draw him bent down. Draw that torso and the pelvis lower. And this time the legs have swapped. So the front leg won't be touching the ground because it's pushing forward. Oops, I'll do stick figure leg and I'll draw the body later. Okay. Now for the arms. Now it's always good to switch it up a little bit. You don't always have to do mirror image. You know, for instance, that halfway mark, the arm is in a slightly different position. So here it's more like that, and here it's more like that. Now that's okay. It's good to switch it up a bit. Now we take this frame that we did and we put it right in the middle again. So now when I hit Control Enter, I'll see that played back to me. Now that feels pretty good. That's got that, yeah, that's got that feel. So exactly the same thing again between these frames. So I'll delete that. And this time we can use the other frames as a bit of a guide and almost draw halfway between both of them. So almost, especially towards the end of the process. Let me just make sure I'm doing the right foot. Especially towards the end of the process, it starts to feel like your job's being done for you because, oh wait, I just did the wrong thing and contradicted myself, because essentially you're drawing between them. You're just drawing the in-between frames. Okay, so now I'll draw this arm. The halfway point is around there. I'll drag that right there. Same thing here. Let's draw that halfway point. So let's see what arm is going where. Okay, so this arm is about to come up. Let's draw the torso. This leg here is about to straighten out lift. So we draw it straight and flat. The other one is snapping into position. Okay. Now let me make sure I'm going to get the back arm right. Okay, so this one's pretty much hidden. Same thing as before, I drag that in the middle there. So as you can see, we're starting to get the motion bouncing. Exactly the same process. Like I mentioned that, you know, this starts to do itself. It is difficult, but, you know, hope you don't get too bored in this tutorial because it will be very repetitious in terms of what I'm doing. Now, this time, we're halfway between there and there. So this leg is lifting up. The back leg has snapped into place and now is bending down for the first time. The front arm. How we want to do this? Let's do that. Okay, now we drag that halfway again, and this time we're doing the last one of our mid frames. Now, the first frames, the key frames are essentially the start, the middle, because they're the most extreme points of the walk, right? You have secondary keyframes, which would be the lower points, and then the rest are essentially filler keyframes. Anyways, enough of that divergence. Let's get back to work. So this time, this leg is kind of flopping out to the front. This one's about to snap back into its first position. Let's drag that in the middle, and now let's render and see how that looks. Okay, now it's looking alright, but I want more bounce. So I'm just going to go back into the animation, and I'm going to take the second frame area, pull that down. The one after that, I'm going to pull it down even lower. Then the one after that, I'll pull it down about halfway between where it was and the other one. And then I'll leave the first one. Then I'm going to do the same thing with this next lot. Down a little bit, down a lot more, down a little bit. Now when I watch it, okay, so that's got the bounce that I want. Now we can really start to refine the walk. So I'm going to exit that clip and I'm going to go into a new frame, and this is just for the reference file. So if you guys want to access this file that I'm working on right now, but with the finished walk cycle, click on the link below because I'll put it there. I'll duplicate this symbol and call it stage 2 so you can see how things develop from here. Now here's another little trick. This thing here that I almost clicked on before, edit multiple frames. Select that and drag the selection area to cover the whole animation. Then click and drag and select all of those frames and make them lighter like that. Cool. Now that that's done, we can unselect it and keep the wireframe on. And we go back so it's a lot lighter. And I'm going to grab a darker color and start filling in the body depth. So his arms taper in a bit, then they taper out a bit. So again, this is still sketchy. This isn't our final animation. So we can still be rough, but we're just putting meat on the bones. Okay. So I have that first foot out. I'm going to have that taper in more. You know, it's a very good practice to actually use references, whether it be a video of yourself or something else. Every time I do walk cycles, especially of things like animals, you always find a reference because everything moves differently. And as an animator, you're essentially an actor, and your job is to make people believe what is happening. And it's not a very easy job. Okay. So then this front leg, whoops, comes down a bit more. Oh, actually, you know what? I should be wiser and do what I did before, do the middle frame rather than skipping ahead of myself. Okay. I don't know why that did that. Why did it do that? Is it because I coloured it? Yes, it is. Ignore that. Okay. Sorry. That was my bad. Now, yes, back to work. So I'm drawing the whole thing facing the other direction. But this time, it's the other way. So I have that chest puffed out because he's pretty happy with himself. He got a pretty lady. Let's have that toe bent. That back arm bent. And the front leg snapped forward. It's a very proactive walk. So with the onion skin off, I can see that that is something I'm quite happy with. Although I do want to fix this leg and bring it out a little bit more at the top. Okay, I can take that first frame, put it at the very end, go back to the beginning. Now, if I follow the process that I had before, I'm going to instead drag this over here just so I have the reference on the frame here, if that makes sense. Probably doesn't, but whatever. Actually, I probably shouldn't do that. Sorry, my bad. Leave it at 20. Frame 10. I'm a terrible, terrible teacher. Okay, frame 10. Onion skin the frame before, which covers 1 to 9. And we're redrawing, but with the physicality in place. Putting some meat on those bones. Now, it is a choppy walk cycle so far, but don't get ahead of yourself. I'm going to be adding in between frames later. So this time we have the front leg bent and walking. You know what I should do is add a frame underneath all of this for this guy to walk on. This is my walk reference line. So that's the front leg, that's the back leg, and I'll make the back one less visible and lock that. So that way I'm going to make this character's feet follow those lines. That makes it consistent. Now make sure to post any questions if you have them in the comment section below. Okay, so we're doing that back leg again. Now in the stick figure I have the foot pronged up like that, but I'm going to actually bring it around like that, so it's like it's being pushed back by the motion of bringing the foot forward. Okay. I'm happy with that. I'm going to do the same thing here, the in-between frame for frame 30, which is very similar to the one that we drew, but different because we're redrawing it. Okay, let's get that torso in, bring it down. Okay, now just like we did with that frame before, we're going to have this front foot curved with the motion of bringing itself forward. This back foot completely flat. And this halfway point for this arm. Right. Only a little bit more to go. This time I can use both images as a reference. But the cool thing I can do is actually wireframe them. So if I click here, onion skin outlines, that makes the physical drawing layer that I've been working on less visible, but so that way I can see the stick figure drawing of the guy underneath it and draw on that frame. So draw that arm layer there. Piece, limb. I don't think you guys appreciate the difficulty of trying to talk and commentate an animation tutorial while animating, because it's quite an intense task on its own. So it would be just a miracle and a wonder if I make any sense at the end of it anyway. Okay, so this leg comes in and bends. Now, I've done the wrong thing there. I've tapered the leg out, but it needs to come in. Keep it on that line. And the back leg. Oops. Okay, so I've got that one. I'll drag that to where the other frame is. I'm going to go here. New keyframe. And draw over that, draw the meat on the bones. And track where this front arm is. And make sure it flows. So it tapers in, then it tapers out. Then we draw the hand. Torso. And leg. Foot. Okay, so now we draw the back leg before it snaps into place. And the back arm in its limbo point there before the big fist up in the air. Nope, I just stuffed that up and did it the wrong way around. It's actually this way. There we go. And we drag that frame there. So let's watch that so far. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing with the other two. Like I said, repetitious process. And after this, we will be doing our filler frames. Okay, now we do the front leg bent between these two. We're watching the front leg here, so we're getting that motion right. Now we're doing the back leg, so it's snapped into place and then it bends. So we've got to do our halfway point there, and we have our reference in the transparent onion skin tool working. So we just use our guidelines and draw halfway between them. And we do the exact same thing with the back arm. Drag that on top of layer 25, number 25. And our last one of these, well, it won't be our last, but of this set, is before pulling back. So this time the arm is here, like that. And the front leg is kicking forward, so we have our leg out, tapering in. I followed the wrong one. I was following this line, and I was meant to follow that line, so it can be easy to lose your place and get confused with all these lines everywhere, but it's a process and you get used to it eventually. Back leg. tapering and falling into place. And the hand here now. Okay, so we've done that. Now when we watch our walk cycle, that's how it looks. So it's getting there. Now I'm going to make a new frame and do another progression for the reference file. Once again, if you want to use this as a reference or take a look at it, click in the description. Now I'm going to delete my initial sketchy layer. So I only have this. And now I'm going to do the halfway frames between these frames. But the good thing is we have our shape and we have our motion. So now we're just filling in the blanks. So I'm going to I'm going to keep wireframe. Wireframe's useful. And what we're doing is we're just drawing halfway between both reference lines. So this is the point where it starts to get a little bit more self-directed, where it's not so from scratch, if that makes sense. Let's draw that front leg and the foot going down. Now we still have to keep in mind, even though we're kind of doing the halfway thing, we still need to make sure that we're aiming to get the motion right and the expression in place properly. There we go. So that's that one done, and I'm going to drag it halfway between those. Whoops, up there. Next one. So drawing halfway between them. Halfway. And the torso. Same thing, using that front leg reference. These onion skin tools and the wireframe tools are absolutely inexpendable, if that's the word I'm looking for. I hope it is. But yes, they're extremely great. You will be using them a lot in animation, especially in frame by frame, because things get confusing. Okay. It's always good to kind of run back and forth in your motion just to make sure you're getting it all right. Even if you think you are, you don't want any nasty surprises where you have to redo the whole thing, because that happens. I can promise you that happens. Okay, so we've done that one. Drag it across. Next one, same thing, halfway point. Now I'm showing the whole process just because I suppose it's, more information is better than less information. But when it gets to the stage in the tutorial in which I draw the refined lines, I will draw one, but then I'll skip to the end because it's less of a drawing tutorial, more on the movement and animation itself. But I do want to include that after. So just letting you know beforehand, because it's hard to find other things to talk about in the space of a 20 to 30 minute animation tutorial. So how about that weather? There we go. So that one I'll drag back. So we're starting to get a much smoother motion. We've only got 4 more to go. I'll try and speed it up for you. How about that? Keep it nice and paced. Try the back, leg, at the halfway point up where it's starting to get on its toes. I want to bring this foot down more. Okay. That back arm. Pull that back. Next one. The head. Do the arms. Where are the arms going? Between those two. Yep. Arms. Torso. The torso and head are the easiest bit because they're regularly in the same place. It's just getting the motion of the arms and the legs that can be pretty tricky at times. But you get used to it slowly. I mean, I even still have a hard time with it though. So you can never be a master of the art unless you know, go crazy addicted to it, which I'm not. I'm actually not the best at frame by frame animation, but I give whatever information I can. But I'm outclassed by many animators. Next one. I just want to get the motion here, so okay. This arm's coming down halfway between here. And leg halfway. You can see that the distance between frames here is fairly minimal. Distance in the actual lines, I mean. Not the actual frames up here. They are fairly close together. Okay. So this arm's starting to come up a bit. That needs to go because it's not moving forward enough. Pull that back. Same thing, second last one this time. But we will do a couple more after this because we need to refine the timing of the cycle, the pacing of the movement. But I'll explain that when I get to it. So that front leg comes up, yep. Actually, I think that needs to come back more. More significant forward movement. Again, this is still fairly rough, as in like you don't have to draw your lines perfectly at this stage in the game because we will be doing our proper refined lines after. Pull that back and we're on our last one of this set. Leg down. Now, do keep in mind that I am doing this extremely quickly because it's a tutorial. So I would normally spend more time on this, and don't, especially if you're a beginner, do not expect to be working at this pace. It's and getting this a similar result because it's an extremely difficult thing to do. I have a hard time with it. You know, so don't be hard on yourself. That's one of the worst things to do. Just take your time, enjoy the process, reward yourself when it's good. You know, like work more on projects as a whole and try and make cool stuff and be motivated through that rather than expecting to be perfect in the technical side of things first, because that's a slow process and I'm nowhere near there either. So this is how it looks so far. So that's looking a lot better. Now, as you can see, there are some areas with 2 frames and some areas with 3 frames. That does mean essentially that our whole thing is slightly out of time, that there are slight stop-starts. So I'm just going to watch this and see where it feels a bit choppy. Okay, so I know it feels choppy at the top. It feels like it stops, it sticks slightly around there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the frames hugging closer to the middle and the end, like this. So this is our middle, 20. Okay, so now it sticks in the middle. Sorry, not the middle, but I mean the middle of the middle. In the quarter marks, I suppose you could call them. So we're going to add in between frames to them. Actually, I have a better idea. I'm going to delete that. I'm actually going to find where the biggest movement differences are and fill them in. So I'll get rid of that. And what I mean is essentially if I onion skin and have a look at this, okay, that's a medium pace movement. Medium, but moving a bit faster. That's a small one, so I'll keep that short, keep that short. I'll keep them close together. So what I'm essentially talking about, god damn, I say essentially a lot, essentially. When I say the distance, I mean, you see this line here for the leg in the previous frame, that's a short distance between the next frame. I'm trying to find ones that have big movements. So that has a short movement. That this one had a bigger movement. So I'm actually going to put a blank frame in there because that needs to be smoothed out. And I'm going to go find another big movement. And I think this is one. That's smaller, smaller. Yep, that one's fine. Smaller. So that's definitely a big movement. So I'm going to add a frame in there. I'll go back to the start. And I'm going to add a frame in there. So I have 4 places that I'm going to be drawing in between. Now I'm going to extend my onion skin to both frames again. And do what we did before. We draw the halfway point. Because this way, those moments that speed it up unnecessarily are smoothed out. Essentially. See what I did there? Because I mentioned that before. No? Okay, whatever. I don't care. Okay. Say okay a lot too. Man. You know, doing long video tutorials makes you realize the things that you do a lot and suck with. That one's done. Let's do the next one. Same thing, halfway point. You know, there seems to be a bit of an elitist attitude sometimes to frame-by-frame animation, saying that tweening is for noobs and should not be used. And while their point might have some grounding, it's not true because every tool is a useful tool. And that's like saying a hammer is so much better than a chisel, you should never use a chisel because chisels are for noobs if you're a builder. But that's just not true. They do different things and they're both very useful. For example, in game design, where you want games that have a lot of customizability, then you can do a lot of things in the same frame of a symbol that you use in tweened animation and offer more customizability than you could in a frame-by-frame animated character or item. You know? Okay. So we're on our second last one. This is the frame where the foot is rolling onto the ground. And we'll do our last one now. So you can see that the drastic movement is definitely there. Between the frames. Draw the hands, draw the torso. This is where the foot starts to kick up. So it's good to have a frame here because there is a very drastic movement between those two. Okay, now we get to our positioning. So as you can see, we have clusters up here. I want to take this second last frame and replace the last frame, because as you recall, it was exactly the same as the very first frame, and we don't want to repeat that. So we'll drag that across. Now the first thing we're going to do is just space it so that those ones that only took up a single frame are gone. And there you go, problem solved. The entire animation has spaces of 2 frames. And now when I watch that, it's much smoother. Every second frame is taken up. I'm going to save that and make a new frame in the main timeline, duplicate this symbol, and I'm going to call this final. And just like in the case of the sketch, we're going to use our Edit Multiple Frames tool, select the whole thing, make it a nice light color. We can deselect that tool. So the whole thing is lighter. Now we're going to add a frame on top, lock the initial frame, and we're going to do our refined outlines. Now I tend to approach the final line work being drawn on top of the construction lines as a kind of drawing a glove on a hand, you know, like the basics, the simple form on top of the structure inside. Now, I mean, I'll probably use that analogy before, but I do that from time to time. Cool. It happens fairly quickly though, as you can see. We've done the bottom half, or the bottom 2/3. And we are done. There you go. So that's our refined outline. And if I hide the workings underneath, that's what he looks like. I'm going to now go ahead and draw all of the other 20 frames. And through the magic of video editing, you can see the final experience. In 3, 2, 1. Whoa! Whoa! How did that happen? Wow, magic. Anyways, as you can see, it's fairly rough because I did every second frame and I was trying to go as fast as humanly possible to not lose the attention span of the remaining 10% of people watching this. But the point is, that's how I do frame by frame animation. I hope you were able to learn a few things that will help with you. Make sure to leave any comments or requests for tutorials in the comment section below. Rate, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And yeah, have a wonderful, wonderful day. I hope you enjoyed this video. Links are below to download the original files for reference. Remember, if you animate or draw something cool, be sure to share it on Newgrounds.com, the internet's best source for animations, games, art, and music. Until next time, see you later.